Hi everybody, welcome to another edition of the Time Pass podcast. Today we have a interesting guest joining us yet again. We have Mr. Kamal Kalra who will tell us more about his life, his work and everything else. So without wasting much of our time, let's just have him over on this podcast and make him talk. In the meantime, I'll sip a few sips of my coffee. This nice mug comes from Weaving Homes. No, it is not a brand sponsor or anything of that sort. It's just a nice mug, so sort of letting you know about it. I think this should do it. Hey, hi Kamal.
Hello.
क्या
Hi.
हाल चाल?
What's up?
बढ़िया. I am good. आप बताओ.
Good as usual. Fun.
Nice, nice. बढ़िया है. Good as usual and बढ़िया है. So, welcome to the Time Pass podcast. Thank you for taking out time to join us.
Thank
अब आप
you.
मुझे ये बताओ that आप करते क्या? What are you currently up to in life, professionally and also personally?
So professionally, I'm leading a business. It's a retail business. I am head of operations for that company. Um, Otherwise, it's been more than a decade in e-commerce startups.
अच्छा.
And before that, I was in corporate. So I worked with IBM, American Express for some time. Then I started, joined a startup. And since then, I've been with startups for almost 11 years now. Yeah, 2012. Since 2012, I've been with startups. So this one is a retail fashion startup that I'm working with now. Even with them, it's been almost 6 years. Started the business from scratch. Now we are almost touching 100 plus crores. So good business,
Oh, man,
doing well. Yeah,
that's
yeah.
amazing. So,
So personally, I'm married, have two kids. That way, life is good.
right. So, tell me about the e-commerce journey. 10 years ago, e-commerce was brand new. Matlab, how did you decide to join e-commerce of all the things in life?
Yeah, I had an entrepreneurial bug in me, always wanted to do something. So, frankly speaking, I also didn't know that I'm getting into e-commerce. It was
अच्छा.
just, an option that came to me. So it's a nice story. What happened was that I was doing a startup along with my corporate job, which was called Dial a Cake. So we had a bakery and we used to run a bakery called Dial a Cake. So it was a concept which was pre-internet, just dial times wherein you could, order something on phone. So the idea was that just like Domino's common number, you can have one number across the country where you can order a cake from.
Right.
So this was the business I was running with my brothers, and I was looking for some funding opportunities. उस वक्त, I mean, I'm talking about the time जब startup को startup नहीं बुलाते थे, business बुलाते थे, and stuff like that. So I used to attend these startup events. So I met one person, and I was discussing with him. This guy was IIT IM, and I was discussing the idea with him. And he said that, Kamal, instead of looking for funds, why don't you join a startup so that you know how businesses are done, how, you're right now working in a full-time corporate job and you don't know how does a startup work. Why don't you join a startup? So I said, yeah, that's a good idea. So he said, I have something for you. So he was looking for somebody in operations, and he kind of liked my profile, what I was doing at Amex. And I think uh, as a brand also, he liked that, okay, American Express is a good brand. Why don't you join me? And then that's when I joined him. And that's when I was introduced to the world of e-commerce and internet is coming up. That's how I joined. And you're right. I mean, at that time, so I'm talking about the times when Flipkart had not started yet. Amazon was not in India. Sorry, I think I got.
No problem. I think now it's back.
It's fine now? Can you hear me? Okay, great. So, so I'm saying Flipkart had not started yet. Amazon was doing Janli.com at that time. It wasn't Amazon in India. Myntra hadn't started. So this is the time. And we were doing web-only fashion brand. And I think that's the same time when we both got connected through Robinhood. You know, I got really active in the startup community and everything like that. So yeah, that's been the story.
So, what were you doing in Amex when you were doing this cake
Dialect cake.
business?
So in Amex, I was at a manager level. I was leading a team for American Express credit cards
Okay,
in US at that time, and I had just started working with American Express India cards also. So I was in a customer service kind of an environment wherein we used to support the card holders, the calls coming from the card holders.
got it, got it. And this first brand that you joined, that you're talking about, the fashion brand, when you say that you were managing the operations, I genuinely want to understand what does it mean when a person in an e-commerce setup says that, I'm managing the operations of the company.
Well, operation has a lot of things in it, so it's not necessarily so it's a very broad term. But at that time, I was handling. So I started with their customer service operations. Then I started managing their supply chain. So operations essentially means the entire supply chain of the business, the customer service vertical. So in my current company, I'm handling tech, I'm handling CS, I'm handling supply chain. These are the three main departments that I'm handling. So e-commerce sales operations. So how the website is looking, how are you getting orders on the website? Then once you get the order, how do you ship it? And then post sales and pre-sale queries also.
So the entire operation
So that's,
process,
yeah.
right from someone placing an order to how the tech works, to how the supply chain works, to the person getting the product and customer service.
Yeah. So that's the
Interesting.
same thing I was handling in the first startup also. That startup was called Done
Right.
by None. It was a funded fashion brand. I mean, they took some seed fund, but apparently, like in 4 years of operations, things didn't work out between the founders and everything. The company went bust, and then since then, I've been into various different roles.
Interesting. Interesting. And so this current company, you've been with them for, you said, what, how many years now?
6 years.
6 years. And so I think everybody saw that e-commerce kind of peaked during COVID times when people weren't stepping outside, people were a little afraid of going to a mall or a shopping complex. How has the journey been afterwards, and how do you see it progressing in the time to come? Do you see more and more Indians adopting online as a first means of shopping, or do you think that we'll still be a primary offline country and also do some online shopping?
No, I think good question though, but I feel it's very different because if you look at it worldwide, offline retail is still an active retail therapy for people, right? And offline retail does like almost 60% of the retail still happens offline internationally also, even in the mature markets. Now, India is at a very crucial stage wherein so in the mature markets, if you notice, people have gradually moved in the internet, from a broadband to a Wi-Fi, from a laptop, from a computer to a laptop to a mobile. India, especially, is a country wherein the first internet adoption is happening on mobile. Like I think more than COVID, it was Geo that facilitated this movement of people using internet for the first time on their small mobile devices. So I think that's really a stage where we are at in terms of retail. That means so India has an opportunity to become the most market share in terms of internet penetration and in terms of e-commerce. India is sitting at that level. So And we are a very unique market. People are adopting internet and e-commerce very quickly. We are the youngest population in the world. So that way also we are adopting internet a lot more faster than any other mature market in the world. तो वो तो है, इंटरनेट पेनिट्रेशन तो अच्छे से हो रहा है कंट्री में, और धीरे धीरे लोग भी ई कॉमर्स की तरफ अट्रैक्ट हो रहे हैं, थैंक्स टू द गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसीज आल्सो नाउ, लाइक यूपीआई हैज बीन at the
Game
forefront.
changer.
You won't believe, like today, almost 60 to 70% of my sales happen through UPI. Imagine at a business at that level, if your 60% of sales are happening through UPI, you have just changed the game. You're not even participating in those credit card, debit card economies at all. It's peer-to-peer payment. So that's where I think we have changed the game completely. And there is where the e-commerce penetration is coming to the country. We are still far away from the, if you look at it in pure numbers, we are still far away from what international and other mature markets are doing. But I think we are reaching there slowly.
So, very interesting point you brought about UPI. It was, in fact, a question on my mind. I wanted to ask that when you compare metro cities with tier 2 towns, do you see a major difference in terms of UPI adoption is much more in the tier 2 towns, while metros may still also pay with a credit card or something like that? Or is it the same across geographies now?
See, my business is very urban, so
Okay.
I might not have a clear understanding of how tier 2 cities are performing. But to answer your question as a corollary, I am a very urban business, but still I am telling you that 60% of my payments are happening through UPI. Like my major cities are tier 1 cities only. My major cities are metros and tier 1 cities. So in those cities, if I'm doing 60% business through UPI, that means it's getting adopted
And
across the spectrum.
what do you think is the reason? I mean, while most people in an urban city will have a credit card, does UPI make them feel safe? Is it more convenient? Or what do you think is the primary reason for UPI versus credit card?
I think it's convenience. Like for me also, personally, I might have multiple cards, and at a POS machine, I might still use a card. But online, there are two things. One is, of course, it's the convenience and the safety net. And the second thing definitely is that people, today where we are, people still are not very comfortable sharing their credit card details online.
Right.
So at a pause, तो मैं फिर भी credit card use कर लेता हूँ. लेकिन
I get it.
online, I also prefer using UPI.
Interesting. Yeah, I think the security aspect is always there, that कहीं credit card steal information ना हो जाए or something.
हाँ, exactly. और convenient है ना, मतलब eventually everybody knows, like you have to end up paying to the credit card also.
You kind
पहले
of scan,
होता था,
you enter the PIN and then you're done. I mean, like, nobody can really steal that OTP or the PIN like that in general.
exactly.
Quite interesting
And
actually. How it has
UPI
been.
is also peer-to-peer. Technologically also, UPI is far safer than
So like that.
a
Right.
credit card. Tech perspective से भी UPI is safe, I feel.
So, did you guys see an upsurge in sales after UPI was introduced, or it all happened together, the Geo movement and the UPI and everything else?
See, we are a very, we are a startup, a small business. So I think for us, the entire scale happened gradually, and it was a mix of everything. Like COVID happened, and after COVID, there was a surge in traffic that we saw in our on our platform. Plus, there was UPI movement anyway there. UPI has been there in the system for some time now. So even before COVID, UPI was there. But post COVID, the adoption was, it got increased. Like there was very quick adoption to UPI. Otherwise, people were still using cash and everything. So post COVID, that also happened, and definitely there was a positive uptick in terms of people adopting to e-commerce websites and trying to see if they can purchase it properly, because there was nobody else. I mean, there was no option to move out. So I think everything together became like a positive movement for us. Like it helped move the needle.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Quite interesting, honestly. So अब हम जरा रुक करते हैं आपकी बुक की तरफ. You had written a book, I think, what, 3 years ago now?
2 years, I think, yeah. 2021, so, yeah, 2021.
So tell us about how that happened, why that happened, and what was your experience like writing the book?
Experience was great. I mean, it's almost very overwhelming sometimes when you try to put your thoughts into a book, or when you try to uh, put it into a format. We all have a lot of thoughts running in our minds, and we all want to do a lot of things, but when the moment comes to put it into a format, it's very overwhelming. You don't understand how to close it, what to do, what will you write about. So for me, there were two reasons for this book. One clearly was the fact that it was there on my wish list for a very long time. I had always thought of becoming an author sometime, and there were a lot of things that, I mean, you always have a checklist, 100 things to do before I die. I think this was one of those. And uh, second bigger reason was that, you know, working in startups, and I come from a business family. I spent some time in corporate as well. There were certain things which I felt was to be told. Like, there is always, yeah, there is always a process that you follow, and there is always some things that you want to, you should be doing in terms of setting up a business, or in terms of running a business. What are those things? How do you make sure? Because just like you were recently doing something, right, wherein you were talking to multiple business owners and you were trying to help them. I think that's a very great, noble thing that you were trying to do, and based on your experiences. Similarly, I had certain experiences which I wanted to share with a larger group of people, to tell them that, okay, these are some pitfalls that you can avoid, and these are certain things that everything has a process to it. So these are certain processes that you can definitely follow and build a better and operationally successful business. क्योंकि I personally feel operations is the backbone of any business. हम लोग जब भी कोई startup pitch देखते हैं, धंधा देखते हैं, so they speak about what is the idea, but nobody essentially tries to understand or speaks about how that idea will be converted into a real, executed into a real business. And execution is what all matters, right? Like, Facebook was not the first social media, and Google was not the first search engine, but it was clearly the core executional focus that these companies had, which made them big. So I think that was the reason why I wanted to write that book, and COVID helped us, all of us actually. So we were at home. There were a lot of thoughts, a lot of ideas going on in your mind, and I had already written a few chapters of that book in the past. But it gave me an opportunity to complete it, and then I made it published. Yeah, so it was a great, it was a good experience. Even that business, you get to know a lot of things: how books are sold, how they are published, what is that business. So मेरे लिए तो वो भी एक journey थी. So it was good. It was a good opportunity. So yeah, I really enjoyed every part of it, from editing to publishing to going through multiple rounds of editing and this and that, and more importantly, giving it a shape. I mean, I did send you one. I hope you read it. So I wanted to put it in a story format. The idea was not to make it into another self-help book wherein you're just giving ideas and this and that. I wanted to put it into a story. So I used my experience of the fashion business that I was a part of, and the multiple startups that I participated in. So it was more in a form of a story, so that the storytelling aspect of it is not lost.
Absolutely. And in fact, going back to the operations part, I recently was hearing a talk where somebody mentioned that Apple wasn't Apple because of just Steve Jobs, but Apple also became Apple because of, let's say, the Tim Ferrisses or other, sorry, not Tim Ferriss, I'm sorry, Tim Cooks and other people who actually ensured that operations were managed so well and executed so well that it led to, things really working out for
everywhere. I mean, if you think about it, like, I don't know if you saw that Netflix documentary on this producer, Yash Raj's son, Aditya Chopra, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So Shah Rukh and Kajol and everybody, people look at them as the actors or the faces of the movies, but there is a lot that goes behind making a movie and making it a blockbuster. So I personally feel that that's where the operations comes and
And I
plays
think
a
so maybe
role.
not as glorified as the
Yeah,
marketer or the
exactly.
CEO,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
effectively I think, I mean, supply chain meaning that operations breaks and the company breaks down, right?
Absolutely. Matlab, if
You
you
could
look
have
at it from
Tesla, yeah.
Sorry. So I was saying, if you look at it at an e-commerce business, अगर आप वो scale की बात करो, so imagine the Alibaba's Black Friday sale where they do a trillion in GMV, or Amazon's big billion day sale, that's Flipkart's, and another sale that keeps on happening. Myntra does 2.5 to 3 lakh packets a day. So look at the machinery that's running in the background, right? That's all operations. So although it's very flamboyant being saying that we did $1 trillion of GMV in one day, but imagine managing that $1 trillion of orders and then shipping them in time and making sure that day on day you get Amazon orders every second day and all those things. So that's where operations plays a big part. I always call it's more like a backbone. It's not as glorified as your face, but
I
if it
understand.
breaks, it breaks.
I understand. I understand.
Yeah, so it's everywhere like that.
So I think by now you are really, I mean, dedicated to the whole operations of a company in general.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I'm fascinated also by it. Like even today, there are a lot of things that we also learn on a day-to-day basis. There are a lot of things that come up. Technology is changing every day. Requirements are changing every day. जब हम 10 साल 12 साल पहले ई-कॉमर्स करते थे तो 5 दिन में भी ऑर्डर पहुंच जाए तो बहुत बड़ी बात होती थी कि
Right,
5 दिन में ऑर्डर डिलीवर हो गया.
right.
आज की डेट में अगर एक दिन से ज्यादा लेट होता है तो कस्टमर स्टार्ट्स राइटिंग पोस्ट्स ऑन सोशल मीडिया एंड व्हाट नॉट.
Yeah, yeah,
सो
absolutely.
सो तो एक्सपेक्टेशंस बदल रही हैं, टेक्नोलॉजी बदल रही है, रिक्वायरमेंट्स बदल रही है लोगों की, तो उसके साथ साथ हमारा भी काम डे ऑन डे चेंज हो रहा है. सो मुझे लगता है देयर इज लॉट टू लर्न अभी तो
And so you also see a
कुछ
lot to
भी.
learn, and also you see a lot of potential for growth, India and abroad also, in terms of the whole ecosystem or the online ecosystem fundamentally, right? I
Absolutely.
mean, there will be slumps and there will be tough times, but I think largely we are looking at more and more adoption of the internet as a means of transacting, as a means of doing things, learning things, etc., etc.
Yeah, like for example, EdTech. Like EdTech has grown multifold after COVID because everybody is now realizing that it's okay if you're not going to school regularly. Right? That was a myth that you had to do 12 years of regular schooling and then 3 years of regular college and this
Right.
and that. Now things are changing, and in fact, even the Ivy League universities are offering online
Correct.
courses.
Correct.
So, and who would know better than you for that? Because you managed Digital Define for such a long time. And I think, I mean, that's the thing. The entire edtech industry is shifting. The entire commerce industry is moving ahead. Who knew, with Make My Trip, who knew that buying tickets would be so easier, right?
I agree.
सो हमें याद है यार, मतलब पापा मम्मी और ही भेजते थे रेलवे स्टेशन पे
अरे
जाके
वो
टिकट खरीद के ले
ट्रेन में
आओ.
लग के लाइन लग के
ट्रेन में
तत्काल की
लाइन लग
टिकट
के
खरीदिए.
तत्काल की टिकट खरीदते थे, या फिर वो कुछ सबने एजेंट्स बनाए हुए थे जो
हाँ
आपके
हाँ
जाके
वो
टिकट ला
I
के
know I
दे
know I
देते थे.
know. This was a very regular occurrence, not
दिस
even a मतलब कोई this is
हाँ
40 years ago. This is like
एग्जैक्टली
अभी मतलब
राइट, 10-20 साल पहले.
I know what you're
So
saying.
20 साल पहले how it shifted the industry. So same thing I'm saying that all the industries are getting disruptive. Like how Canva disrupted the design
Design world,
industry.
right?
How, yeah. So there are no code app
Correct.
development things happening. So you just need one idea to disrupt an industry. And I think e-commerce is a long way to go. The
And I
commerce
think
on internet
what I
is
also
one way.
understand is that, like you mentioned, that you guys have also been around for quite a while, and you talked about Make My Trip in particular, or things like Canva. I think it also is about how long can you survive for. When the bad time comes, can you survive those bad times? If you can survive those bad times, then you will thrive when the right time comes along.
Yeah, absolutely. वो तो है ही है. मतलब that's given and that's life also, right? Like I was talking to my wife yesterday and we were discussing that in a way we have reinvented ourselves almost every 4 5 years to work with what. And if I tell you, like I've known you for 10 years now, you have reinvented yourself. Today morning, you posted about certain things you were doing. Like I know you from that Smiles training that you used to take, and then you started into digital define, and then you're doing this podcast, and you've been doing a lot of things in and out. Same is the case with me. So unless you reinvent yourself with every fall that you take, there was this quote now that it's not about how many times you fall, it's about how many times you get up again after you take a fall. So same thing. I think it's important to reinvent yourself. It's important to reinvent your businesses, and it's important to know that okay, what is it? What's next as a business? तो वो तो है ही है, वो तो चलता ही रहेगा. और अभी तो I'm worried that how things are going to change once this AI and ML becomes mainstream. So there are a lot of ifs and buts around it. Of course, I remember, when we were in school, do you remember we used to talk about कि 2020 में क्या
Y2K हो जाएगा,
Y2K के बाद और plus 2020 आते आते तो दुनिया बदल जाएगी. ठीक है, we have slowly understood that thing. But अभी सब सोच रहे हैं कि 2050 में क्या होने वाला है. So 30 years down the line, you don't know. 25 years down the line, how things will change. How will AI affect our day-to-day life and routine? But yeah, it's fun times. Tech is evolving, and every day there is not something new to learn. As long as you have an open mind, as long as we are able to capture, in fact, if you're able to manage that, it's great.
I think my takeaway there is that no matter how good you are at something, or no matter how much you've done something off, like, if you've succeeded at doing something in the past 5 years, if you're not ready for change, if you don't accept that, change will happen, I will have to evolve and have to change, I think you'll be left behind, or you will kind of find yourself not part of the same game that you were earlier playing.
Yeah. No doubt.
Whether you're a company, whether you're an employee, whether you're whosoever, essentially, you have to just accept this fate. This will happen and I will have to change, and I will just figure out the key skill is the ability to learn the new skill or add it to your kitty.
Yeah, I think the skills have changed with today, like what we were taught in school. For example, let's take information, right? We used to mug books, and the information was something that was the most important aspect because people felt that information is not available easily, and you should remember that, right? You should keep it in your mind कि इसका क्या होता है, इसका क्या होता है. Today, the information is on your fingertips, and it's the subsets of information are huge, right? Today, you don't need to mug up the information, but the more important skill to learn is that how do you use that information, and how do you use that information into something useful. So that's where I am, and you are absolutely right, is when you change, you got to be ready to change with time. And be it a job, be it a business, be it in relationships. I mean, we are very different parents than what our parents were.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure our kids will have different, requirements from us. They will, and going forward, the kids will have very different aspects of what they want from their parents, right? हमें एक थप्पड़ मार के बिठा दिया जाता था, बट अभी तो मारना मुड़ना तो बात की बात है. अभी तो तुम बातों में नहीं सीख सकते यार बच्चे से. So I have a teenage kid, so every day it's like, he'll ask you some random question which you have to think and say that अच्छा भैया क्या बताए क्या, let's see. So it as a parent, as a husband, as a employee, as a business owner, as a civil person, like we are evolving every day, and that's where we are. We have to evolve. There is no other way.
And I think probably evolution is faster in today's time versus 30 years ago. Maybe also thanks to technology and other changes around us.
Yeah. Evolution तो बढ़ ही रहा है यार. Evolution तो it's super fast.
Like पहले ऐसा होता था ना that if the world around you also is moving at a slow pace, so you could also pace your life in a slow manner.
Yeah.
But abhi it's come down to कि चलो भागो, everything is just running, everything is just happening like that.
You can slow down personally. I mean, if you want to, it's fine. But what's important is that you need to understand how things around you are moving, and then it can be a choice to slow down. It's okay. But
yeah, no, I understand. I mean, by slowing down, I probably mean that some kind of stability, some kind of groundedness in some way.
That's also important. So yeah, exactly. So tech is moving faster, e-commerce is growing, things are moving at a much faster pace than we would have imagined. Like अभी एलन मस्क भाई साहब ने ट्विटर बदल दिया, उसको एक्स कर दिया, आज एक्स कर दिया. So Twitter as we know it has gone, and now we don't know if. So I don't know, like Google as we know it has become Alphabet now, and they have multiple other businesses and arenas. तो ये सब तो चलता रहेगा.
We will talk about AI in brief. I want to understand your opinion that do you by any chance, any means think that AI can lead to the end of life as we know it, or end of humanity's purpose, or end of people having anything to do 50 years, 100 years down the line?
I don't know, yaar. It's a trick question, I think. I don't agree. So I don't think AI can take away the humanity as we know it, but it will make the evolution much faster, as we were speaking. So things will be adapted much faster. Things will be changing much faster because the technological advancements that we know. Even the human, like if you think about it, human brain also has a lot of potential. We are not using it to its potential, but it has. So same thing. अगर AI आप use कर रहे हो, AI को use करके आप evolve better हो रहे हो, then it's great. But it's still built by a human. So I don't think there could be a situation when it will take over humanity. But yes, have you seen Mission Impossible?
Yeah. Surprisingly so, and it feels like it is based on the whole ChatGPT AI thing in there.
Yeah. So it may be used as a weapon, and of course, every technology, like even the atomic reaction, was used as an atom bomb, and it was used against humanity. People thought at that time that once every country has atomic bomb, they will kill each other and the humanity will go for a toss. But there are people who are thinking from that perspective also. It's not necessarily that everybody is using atom bombs on each other, and the humanity has died since then. When there were motor cars that were made, people thought that people will stop walking. So at the end of the day, there is always positive and negative aspect of a technology, but I think we are smart enough to know the limits of it, and then we hold ourselves there. So AI आएगा, अच्छा आएगा, evolution होगा, but before it takes over the humanity, I feel somebody will come to stop it.
we can hope for the best, and maybe some operations guy who will be like, नहीं ये operation गलत हो रहा है, इसको break कर देते हैं. Probably bring back some humanity in all of this operation and save the souls.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure. As in, there is lot. See, I feel there is lot to achieve, and there is lot to do as well. It can foster your progress, but it cannot be everything. There is definitely a human aspect to it. There is definitely a thinking aspect to it. Like अभी भी तो हम चैट जीपीटी को प्रॉम्प्ट देते हैं और वो प्रॉम्प्ट आपका थोड़ा सा भी गलत होता है तो वो आपको गलत, इवन गूगल यार, आई मीन
I agree.
गूगल कैन
Search mechanism, I mean, they are not perfect at all. I do completely agree.
तो गूगल को भी आप सर्च, इतने साल 20 साल से गूगल is actively doing search, and today also their indexes can be wrong, right? You can give them a
they are almost always wrong, to be very honest with you, but I get your point.
So that's where we are. Yeah, I mean, I personally feel that there is human aspect has to be there in everything. तभी वो आगे बढ़ सकता है. Otherwise, if it's just machine, then it won't get that kind of acceptance, I would say.
Right.
आप बताओ, आप क्या सोचते हो AI के बारे में? How are you using AI?
While I'm very pessimistic and even to an extent a cynic in a lot of cases, for some reason with AI I feel like we are overhyping the whole thing. I do know its capabilities currently, and nobody knows what it will evolve into in the time to come. मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है that the human fields will actually do well over time, in the sense that things that technology cannot do is what will start gaining more prominence somehow. For example, I'll give you a brief example. Psychologists are in demand everywhere around the world post-COVID, and post the very fact that technology has actually disrupted everything. So everybody is moved away from their families, their hometowns, they are far. So, you need humans to again help humans feel better or feel good or feel happy and everything. So I think somehow automatically humanity also finds a balance, a cure for its own doings or wrongdoings for that matter. So, but देखते हैं वक्त के साथ पता चलेगा. Okay. So it's been one fun conversation, Kamal, and like you said, this is the first time we literally have interacted per se. But I guess all thanks to social media ऐसा लगता नहीं है, मतलब लगता है बात होती है, पता है, जान पहचान है.
हाँ, अब सिर्फ मीम्स रह गए ना, वो एक दूसरे को मीम्स भेज के खुश होते रहते हैं. So yeah, and you feel that you are in touch. So it's a good thing, yeah, good conversation. I really enjoyed, and I think it should be longer, and we should do it again. Sure. Maybe the next part, AI.
Yeah, we probably do around a topic. Maybe this was more like a general, just get started, get going. होता यही है, बात शुरू होती है तो लगता है अभी तो बात शुरू ही हुई थी मतलब.
Exactly. I am feeling like that. I thought we just started. But cool, good conversation, man. Good talking to you, and let's stay in touch. And anything you need to know from e-commerce perspective, I'm always around.
It was really good to know all that, and all the best with whatever you're doing. And बाकी करते रहेंगे बातें और भी.
चलो, cool. Thanks.
Okay, see you. Bye bye.
Yeah, bye.